Hi, this is Janet Wakeland with RemarkablyCreated.com and the Remarkable Stampers. In today's edition of My Digital Studio Monday, we're going to recreate the page that you see on the screen together. This page features a sneak peek of the T for 2 content disc for My Digital Studio that will be available in our upcoming January 2013 catalog. If you don't have a demonstrator that you work with and would love a complimentary catalog, just let me know by contacting me at janet@remarkablycreated.com. So let's go ahead and get started. I already have a blank page inserted, and I'm going to go ahead and just add a strip of paper. And there's a couple of different ways that you can add paper. The way that you add it is a lot of times going to be based on the finished result that you want. And let's just color fill that with vanilla. And I'll contrast the two options side by side. So let's go ahead and let's take this photo box and we'll put it up here. And we're going to make that 4.5 by 3.5. So there's a photo box. My choice is to change that color fill, color match, paper fill. When you paper fill a box, and let's just pick this, you're going to get your paper, and here it's under designer kits, but I only see one at a time. I can't contrast more than one color at a time. So we're going to go ahead and we'll paper fill. When I right click on it, I don't have any choices as far as rounding corners, ripping edges, or anything like that. And then when I left click, double click twice, what I do get though is a neat feature to be able to change the print size. I can make it bigger or I can make it smaller, and there's going to be times when you're going to want to do that, and so that's when you're going to want to use a punch to create that box of patterned paper or photo or whatever, because you're going to be able to manipulate it, and you're also going to be able to slide the paper around, picking a very specific image. The other option, and one that I use frequently, is a photo box. And photo boxes aren't just for photo. They are something then that you can go ahead and you can fill with designer paper. And we've got our paper up here. And so you can just go ahead and put your paper in. You can also double click and your paper will jump into the box. And now when I left click on it twice, I can crop it. So I can, adjust the size by cropping. But when I right click, now I can round corners with our new corner rounding feature. So we'll hit OK and we'll undo that. And where I click, I can also rip edges. So now I can rip the edges of my project. So again, whether you use a punch to fill, whether you use a photo box, is going to a lot of times depend on the finished project that you want. So let's just go back to using a photo here for me, because I'm not ripping any of my edges, and I know that I'm not altering the size of my pattern paper at all. And let's just put that in there. And let's just find another box. I would take this one all the way over to 10. And photo fill. We'll add another box. And that one's what I want it to be green. This one we want to be blue. There's a lot of papers in this pattern pack, and they are beautiful, both in the traditional sense and in the My Digital Studio sense. They are just beautiful to work with. We'll add this. And I usually like to take my paper off the edges just to make sure that I've gotten it all the way to that edge. Even though I can zoom in and verify, I just feel much more comfortable. And let's find the hexagon that has a little bit of the more reds to it. That's the one with the blue, so let's go down this way. There it is. So now I have my 6 pieces of pattern paper. Because I am trying to mimic a quilt, well, let's first bring over our T for 2. I'll just show you where I found those. Up under embellishments and under designer kits, I'm going to look for T for 2. And since it's open, I'll just bring those embellishments over. I'm not going to use any of the flowers. Instead, I'm just going to use the photo frame. A couple distressed photo frames. And then there's a little stitch label that I'm going to want. So let's just move those down out of the way for right now, and let's come back up under our designer kits, and we're going to come over here to staples and stitching. I could also look for stitching by doing a global search, but I know exactly what I want. Global search is great when you're not quite 100% sure what it is that you want to use on your project. So there's our zigzag stitching. And okay, now I've got these stitchings here, but I actually want those two last stitchings to be under this white column. One of my favorite new features is the layers feature. You can work with it from here, or you can also work with the layers. In one of the recent updates, they added layers over here, and now what's happening is I can grab my stitching and I can just start to bring it down, and I want it to go behind the square punch. Oops, too far. So let's just bring this for front. And you can also do it this way by bringing it to front. Okay, but you can manage your layers over here, and you can see the layer, the actual picture of what you're working with. And let's add one more layer. One of the things that's a little difficult in teaching my digital studio is that there's so many ways to accomplish the same last result. And a lot of times what happens is when you see a different way, then you start to question, especially those of us that are women watching this video, we start to question, am I doing it right? We doubt ourselves. Our self-esteem kind of pops its head up, and you start to go, did I do that right? Did I not do that right? You know, the way that Janet's doing it is different from how I was taught to do it. If it accomplishes the same end result and you know how to get from point A to point B, there's nothing wrong with the way that you're doing it. You just got to remember that. So let's just go ahead now and we'll add our photo. And I have a photo of my sister-in-law's taken at Thanksgiving at this beautiful old farm. This is Katie and Karen. And we'll just bring that to the front. And now I want to come back up under here, under my, under Oh Hello is the stamp set that we'll be working with. And it's the stamp set that is part of this kit. And I want this pretty little rose. And I'm not going to color it because it is on a colored pattern paper background, and so I'm just going to make it a solid early espresso. I just wanted it to anchor that tag. And then the other piece that we're going to work with in here is the chevron piece. And let's just go ahead and rotate that right, like this. I'll make it just a little bit bigger. And now I want to go ahead and I want to color it. And one of the things that you can do is you can make it bigger. It's not changing it on the screen, it's just changing it here in this coloring box so that you can go ahead and color. And you can see what you're actually coloring and how you're coloring it. So we're going to add Island Blue. We're going to add So Saffron. These are the colors in the T for 2 designer paper. Calypso Coral. Oops, didn't click it hard enough. There we go. And Lucky Limeade, which is just, I love Lucky Limeade. So there, I've got it all colored the way I want it to be. And now I'm going to copy and paste it. I know there's a lot of shortcuts, Control V, Control this, Control that. Again, it's just the way that you learned. I'm going to mirror it, so top to bottom, and then I'm also going to flip it because I want the blues to be on opposite sides. And then I'll bring in one more. Let's rotate that left, line it up in, and then I would recolor that one more time. But in the interest of time, we'll just go ahead and we'll add our text. So I'm going to add my text box. And type in the word S-I-S-T-E-R-S, sisters. And I'm going to highlight that. And One of the nice things, again, too, about My Digital Studio is it works with fonts that are on your computer. It doesn't come with its own fonts. We do have alphabet brush stamps, but you can work with Duff Font, the Font Place. There are so many different places where you can find free fonts to download to your computer. And so I'm just working with one called You All Everyone. It's hard. I always want to say You Are Everyone, but it's You All Everybody, excuse me. And let's make that a little bit bigger. Let's go with 44, and let's make it espresso. And I'm just going to tighten up my text box around it. Now I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to slide it down into my spot. Copy, paste. We're going to make that a lot smaller. You could have done this as one big text box that just made the second line a different size font. I find for manipulation purposes, for me personally, I like to create a second text box if I'm going to change the size or the location, because I can manipulate it. You do have something over here called tracking and line spacing, which is great to get those subway art for kind of looking places and things like that. And now I am going to use the global search feature for the calendar year 2012. And I'm just going to pick a year that I like the font style. I'm getting ready to sneeze. I'm sorry, guys. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Excuse me. Sorry. And let's just close. And we're going to go ahead and make this very small so it fits in my little stitch box. And then I'm going to change the color of that. And I'm going to make it Island Indigo so it contrasts against the roses and the lines of the stitch box. And so there, very quickly and easily, using pattern paper, I have my project. I can actually also add stitching on the up and down. And once you have your photos and things in place and you want them again to be layered, you could sit here and right click and go send back, send back, send back, which can be very time consuming. Or again, you can click on your manage layers tool either here or over here on this side, and now you can take that simple stitching and you can pull it behind where you want it to be, as I did here. So that'll give you the option. And again, back to our pre-finished page. Here you can see that I did indeed have stitching on both sides, and I had my chevrons all colored in for you, and I actually had the flower with the little sticker on top of it, just like that. Very clean, very simple, easy page for you to work on recreating. And the best way to get to know your My Digital Studio is to play with it. And for me, one of the things that I like to do is I like to look at pages that I've either seen on Pinterest, I've seen on someone's blog, I've seen in the Stampin' Up! Catalog, I've seen on mydigitalstudio.net, and I just start to try to recreate them to see if I can make mine look like theirs, because it's a learning process for me of how things go together. Plus, I'm also working with pages that I know look great in the end as I start to case them. So again, this sample is a slightly modified version of the one that is in the new Spring 2013 catalog that debuts January 3rd. So have a great day. God bless.